Welcome back to my 2025 NFL Power Rankings. Today we're talking about the Atlanta Falcons, number 23 on my list. And this is a team that has some very legitimate upside here because of these weapons. You look at it, you have Drake London, who is pretty good at settling versus zone, but more than anything, he's someone that turns the 50-50 ball into a 70-30 ball. He is so reliable in that way, catching those contested balls. You really love to have a wide receiver one that could always just come down with nearly any pass. And then at tight end, you have someone who has been underwhelming since getting drafted, but that doesn't make him a bad player. Kyle Pitts is a good tight end. Do not get it twisted. And he still has that athleticism. I understand why there's still people saying this could be the breakout season for him. I'm not going to say that because I think the only way we're really going to see that athleticism get tapped into is going to be if he switches positions to wide receiver full time. But he is still a nice kind of safety blanket in this offensive unit. And then the piece that really brings it all together, Bijan Robinson, an unbelievable running back right here. Someone that is insanely shifty in the open field, has good vision, just a great running back that could take any play to the house, seemingly. Just a very, very stout back, someone you like to see. And then you have some glue guys there. You have a guy like Algier, who's the RB2 on the team, but complements Bijan Robinson's lightning with his thunder. He's more of the thumper of the two backs. He's going to run between the tackles and get those yards through contact, get kind of the nitty-gritty yards. There, you like to have a player that could do that stuff. And then the rest of the receiver core has some decently reliable guys. Darnell Mooney is a guy that might not be a great wide receiver too, but he's someone that you could rely on when someone like Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan Robinson are all not getting open. The good thing about having a player like that is, even though he's the wide receiver 2, he's not the second option. He's technically really the fourth option, and Darnell Mooney as your fourth option, I'll take that. I would personally love to have a player like that on my team as my fourth option, and then Ray McCloud as the fifth option. I really like that. I really like that. On the offensive line, you have a great duo of guys with Caleb McGarry and Chris Lindstrom. That right side, I really like. You're going to want to run mainly over there. Now, the question becomes, Zach Robinson, how are you going to get the most out of all of these guys? Zach Robinson last year, it was an up and down season for him. But towards the end, he really put everything together. And I think a big reason why is because he got a new quarterback to come into the game that completely changed everything. When he was operating this offense with Kirk Cousins, he had to really restrict the playbook because Kirk Cousins, after his injury the season prior, was a statue. He could not move. He was completely immobilized. And that caused him to get rid of a big aspect of his offense, the bootleg, the play-action game. The under-center offense could not be run because Kirk Cousins could not simply go through his drop back. It was that bad. It was that bad. Then Penix comes in late in the season, and the offense goes from 20.9 points per game to 32 points per game for those last 3 weeks of the season. That's unbelievable. And that's partially because Michael Penix did a pretty good job as a rookie. If he can only get better and continue to operate this offense pretty close to perfection. If I'm being honest, in the last 3 weeks, he was spot on in terms of playing more of the Jared Goff role. If we're going to act like Zach Robinson is Sean McVay, which I know we're jumping the gun, but he is a Sean McVay disciple. He's running a similar type of offense to the late 2010s Sean McVay offense. If he's going to be the Sean McVay, then Michael Penix is his Jared Goff. And Michael Penix is playing that role very, very well. He's doing a great job going through his reads. And what I love about Michael Penix is he's comfortable turning his back towards the defense to really sell the play action and then just calmly go through his reads. He is very calm in that pocket, it seems. He's not rattled, and he's not caught off guard by the speed of the game. He was a rookie last year, and he was operating this offense pretty close to perfectly, okay? Now, next year, can he improve upon that? And can Zach Robinson continue to really get all the pieces and optimize them. That's what I want to see, because if he can, this could be one of the best offensive units in football. So why are they number 23? Well, we look over at the defensive side of the ball, and yikes. Raheem Morris wants this team to be all about stopping the big play. And I guess he does a fine job at that. But there's not much of a difference between a slow death and a quick one in the NFL. If you stop the big play just to inevitably let up a touchdown anyway, it doesn't really make a difference. They've improved the pass rush, but it's still a bottom 5 unit. And then in the secondary, I don't feel too great there either. Right? A.J. Terrell is a good corner, but they're using a defensive scheme with all this soft zone coverage where he can't be a complete game changer. Okay, yeah, he's not letting up big catches, but he's letting up a lot of catches because he's not playing tight. Jesse Bates is also good at what he's doing, but it doesn't matter because he's this zone coverage safety. Teams just throw it literally anywhere else, and they're fine doing that because guys like Mike Hughes are out there, and they're going to get exploited. And I think that's part of the reason that Raheem Morris is hesitant to run more tight coverage so A.J. Terrell can be more of an impactful player. But that comes at the cost of the defense still just getting burned slowly. And then up front, it's not much better. Yeah, like I said, they improved the pass rush. They brought in Jalen Walker, who is a versatile type of weapon. He fits this scheme. Raheem Morris is going to want to drop his edge rushers into coverage at times. And he could do that, but he's not an outstanding pass rusher. They brought in James Pierce, who maybe can be that outstanding pass rusher. Maybe. But he's a very raw prospect. He has a lot of athletic traits, but he's far from perfect. And even if you do get the most out of him and he develops into a great pass rusher, he's not a good run defender. So now you're just going to get beat around the edge. On the interior defensive line, it's still not great. If I'm being honest, this is just not a good defensive unit. It just isn't. You need those two rookies on the edge, and Jalen Walker and James Pierce, to really have great seasons, and you need the secondary to step up. Because I don't have a problem if this defense is allowing maybe a middle-of-the-pack number of points per game. Like, that's fine. If they're ranking like 16th, 18th, okay, fine. But if they're not in the top 20, I don't know how many teams they can beat. I really don't. I really like what this offense can do, but the defense seems really weak. To me, this is just a worse version of the Bengals, if I'm being entirely honest. And there's a world where the offensive pieces don't all fall together. And Michael Penix is a sophomore slump. And Zach Robinson isn't this stout offensive coordinator. Then what? Then you have a really bad defensive unit, and the offense isn't performing. I just can't feel great about this team with the defense looking how it does, but let's dive into the schedule and see where they end up. So my first impression upon looking at the schedule is, oh man, it is really, really tough in terms of the start of the season. The first 7 weeks are kind of a hellhole. They do have an early bye, but I do think they're going to head into that bye with a pretty bad record. But I do have them bouncing back towards the end. So we're going to dive into it. Week 1, you're playing against a Buccaneers team that I think is pretty strong, and I think they match up well offensively, right? I think their offense versus this Falcons defense, they're going to carve you up. But I do think the Falcons offense can kind of get going against this Buccaneers team. The cool thing about this Falcons team is they are so malleable in terms of how they could attack you. They could rely on the run game, but they could also get the passing game going. They're not going to be able to rely on the run game here. So I think they're going to rely more on Drake London throwing the football, and that's fine, right? They can do that, and they're fine at doing that. But their main attack is going to be more based around the run game, and then work and play action off of that. I don't think they could really get that going too much here. I think they're going to run the ball fine, but I think it's going to be more of a straight passing game here. And I think the Buccaneers could just stay in their main form of football. They could just keep throwing the football all over this Falcon team and be perfectly fine. Dare I say the Falcons defense plays into their hand. So I think the Buccaneers are kind of a matchup nightmare in terms of their offense against your defense. Week 2, you're playing against another playoff team with the Vikings. they're going to blitz Penix a lot. And we haven't seen Penix play against a very blitz-heavy team. So I don't know how that will look, but I trust Brian Flores. I trust this defense to make the right decisions here. Should be interesting. I don't think Penix and the Falcons are quite ready to play against that defense. I do think they win week 3 just because they know if they don't win week 3, they might head into week 8 without a win. They need to win week 3. So I think they just understand the importance of the game and get the job done. Week 4, you're playing against the team that made it to the NFC Championship last year with Washington. They're another team. I don't think this Falcons defense can play with them. I think that Falcons defense is too weak in the secondary to match up against a Washington offense that will throw the ball all over you. All over you. I don't see a world where they win that one. I think Washington matches up incredibly well against them. Then even off the bye, have them losing yet another game because now you're playing the Bills. See what I mean? It's a schedule from hell to start the year. I don't see a world where they win it. Now, maybe you give a lot of credit to Raheem Morris off the bye week. Maybe Josh Allen turns back the clock and throws 4 picks. But, yeah, I'm sorry. Josh Allen's going to do too much damage to you. Then San Fran. I think they're a good team in a lot of different ways. I think that San Fran can run the ball on you guys. I think they could throw it on you. Like, that's the thing. This Falcons defense is so weak in so many different ways. So the 49ers could just play their football. And the teams that are fine just playing their type of offensive football and they don't shoot themselves in the foot, they'll be fine. I think they might be able to score on San Fran's defense. But I don't think they're going to score more than San Fran scores in the Falcons defense. I don't. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but the 49ers at home are going to win it. And I think by now they're exhausted after all these losses, but I think that they bounce back. They realize week 8, okay, we could get something going now. Because now they start a very winnable stretch. From week 8 to week 12, there's a chance, not just to week 12, week 8 to week 13, they can win all of these. They can win multiple games straight right here. And now it becomes more of a cupcake, more of a cakewalk. And I think now we see Penix start to hit his stride. We see him beat the Dolphins. We see him beat the Patriots. Patriots might do a lot on the whiteboard, but the Falcons have some talent on this offensive unit too. I like Drake May, and I think he could do a lot of damage, but I don't think the receiver core is good enough to win a shootout like this. So I think the Falcons win that one. I think the Colts, I could see the Falcons winning this one, but the Colts are going to run the ball well on you guys. And I think they're going to control the tempo of the game. I think by now they're not starting Anthony Richardson, which means they'll have a viable passing game with Daniel Jones out there. I know that sounds crazy, but yeah, Anthony Richardson is that bad. The Falcons, I just think on the road, I want to give it to the Colts as they're the home team. But I have the Falcons bouncing back as they shut out the Panthers in their series, right? Then against the Saints. Saints are coming off a bye, so I gave that one to them, but that could really go either way. And I have the Falcons as the more talented team, once again, beating the Jets. And I think they're going to study their film from week 1 and week 2 and know, okay, this is how we match up against a more blitz-heavy team. And they're going to feel comfortable doing that. I think that they are going to learn their lesson from earlier film and have Penix ready to take on a blitz-heavy Aaron Glenn defense. I think that Mike McDaniel knows too much about different elaborate defensive schemes, different coverages, different looks that will throw a young quarterback like Penix off. So I don't think he'll win that one. But I think he'll bounce back and get revenge on the Buccaneers in Week 15. I do think the Cardinals are going to beat them. That should be a high-scoring affair, though. That should be a really fun game. Week 17, I think it's the master versus the learner. Sean McVay against his former disciple, Zach Robinson. I think the Rams win that one. And then I think the Falcons shut out. Or sorry, not shut out because I had the Saints winning the last one. But I think the Falcons get one more win before the end of the season to get them to 7 wins. 7-10 final record. That's how I have it playing out. Listen, they're a fine team, and they could do a lot better than this, right? Let's say that they do score a lot more. There's a world where they win multiple games straight from week 8 to week 13. There's a world where they upset the Cardinals here. There's a world where they upset one of these 6 teams, right? There's a world where they go ahead and, I don't think they beat Washington, but there's a world where they beat Tampa in week 1. There's a world where maybe they beat Buffalo. They're coming off of the bye. Maybe they could beat San Fran. Like, with that offensive unit, they really can upset anyone except, once again, Washington. I think scores too much against them. But with that offensive unit, the sky's the limit. It's just I really don't like their defensive unit, so I struggle to really bank on them. But the Falcons are an entertaining team because of all the talent they have on the offensive side of the ball.